All right, welcome to our online masterclass, and we're talking about marketing and dry spells. There's naturally the reason that you came along, I'm guessing, has something to do with the title and the topic. So drop into the chat box just what was it that intrigued you or interested you or caused you to be like, oh, maybe I need to attend to that or think about that. Drop that in the chat box, just a few words or a sentence, so that we know what it is that is the situation that you're in right now. Are you in a dry spell? Are things kind of tough right now? Are you just wanting more help with marketing? Just take a second and put that in the chat box, and we'll have a look at the different reasons that you all are coming, because what we want to do, we've got some things to cover, but we want to make sure that we apply this, especially to those of you joining us live. There's lots of people who are listening to the recording later, but in this live session, you have this opportunity to say, this is what's going on for me. I'm wondering about this. How does this apply to my firm? And we'd love for you guys to use that chat box. If at any point you want to unmute yourself and add a little more detail, absolutely feel free. But let's use the chat box so that we can keep this relevant to each of you who are attending. Okay, we've got a few things coming in here. Love this point from Sophie. We always have a dry spell over the summer. We're going to talk about seasonality today, and that is absolutely something that applies to everybody. Doesn't matter what kind of business you have, everybody has seasons. But depending on your business and your clients, you might have different kinds of seasons, and the longer you're in business, the more you see those seasons to be. If anybody wants to type into the chat what is your busy season, what's your quiet season? I was talking to an accountant recently who said, I feel like September is the new year. So January is the new year, or February for the UK accountants particularly. And then after the summer, it's like, right, okay, let's go, let's get fired up again. And we're already seeing that at PF. We're seeing so many accountants who were thinking about things over the summer. And then suddenly, September's in like a day or two. And suddenly everybody's like, right, seriously now, let's go. So that's part of why we're looking at this. Marcia's saying, had some good content, but are struggling to make the most of it. Appreciate you sharing that, Marcia. That is going to do you a lot of good, because we're going to talk about how to take existing content and use it with a minimum of energy. Because the hard thing with dry spells is that it's hard to summon up the energy, because you're thinking, I want to do this, I want to get going, but I feel tired, or I've got all this going on, or whatever it be. Ellie's mentioned lots of prospects, but it's really hard to get to the final yes. I think that's such a great point. And honestly, Ellie, I'll raise my hand on that one too. We're experiencing that. A lot of agencies I've been talking to, a lot of accountants, I think part of it is just like the world. Like there is an element to which, like the world and the culture and the society right now, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of wonderings, there's a lot of people who are hesitant. And this doesn't mean they don't want to work with you. It means that they want more information. They want to understand that this is the right decision. And for those of you who have been through our accelerator coaching group, and you can always do it again, we've talked about how when people ask questions, or sometimes they don't know the questions to ask, it's because they deep down have that fear that, what if I make a bad decision? What if I make the wrong decision? What if I go with this accountant and I lose money, it costs me in some way, and I wish I hadn't done it? What if I regret my decision? That's what the buyer is worried about for any purchase. The percentage of worry would be smaller for a small purchase, like a pair of shoes you don't care about, a little bit bigger for a much more expensive custom pair of shoes, a little bit more for some joinery work in your kitchen, and a heck of a lot more for buying a new house or a piece of land. So the bigger the decision, the more challenging it can be. Elsier's mentioned struggling with growth. Sophie mentioned different seasons. So all of those things are why we're having this topic. And the other thing I want to ask you about is just in your general business, not just in marketing, but just things being hard or things being really easy. If one is like, oh my gosh, everything's so smooth, I don't even know why I'm on this webinar. And number 10 would be, things are really tough. Like, not going to lie, things are really, really tough. Everything's a struggle. Team, clients, sales, systems, everything is super, super hard. So one, to just drop the number into the chat. We're not going to share this anywhere else. This is just for your exercise. Just be like, how hard am I finding everything in my firm? And I want to talk about how this links to marketing, and be really honest. I know that it's tempting to be like, well, don't want to put it too high because then other people will see my number and they'll think this. I think honestly, all of us are going to be encouraged with, yeah, we've got some 9s, some 8s, some 7s. Like, I'm with you. Like, I feel like the last probably 6 months have been some of the most challenging, maybe 6 to 9 months have been some of the most challenging we've had at PF, just for so many reasons. There's so many good things, and we're grateful every day, and great team, and love the clients we work with. And some things are just really hard. And some of you a little less hard. We've got some people rating a 3 or lower numbers. And that's how business works. It goes in seasons. But the reason I ask how hard things feel in your business is that business and marketing are connected. So if your business is hard, your marketing's hard. If your business is sailing and everything's going smooth, then marketing is easier. That's how it goes. Because marketing is connecting people to, this is who our business is. This is who we are. This is what we care about. These are our values. This is what we do and how we do it. And you know the way, when your energy is high and you're excited and you just made 3 new sales yesterday and you're on top of the world, that makes all future marketing easy, at least for the next couple of days. Because you're like, I am the queen/king of my world. Everything's amazing. I got this. And then tough things happen. You get sick. Somebody in your family gets sick. You lose a client. You lose a bunch of clients. And you're trying to think, is this me? Is this our fault? Or is this just the world right now? Like Ellie was saying, you get ghosted by a bunch of prospects and you're like, what am I doing wrong? And so then you bring that energy. It's not your fault. You just naturally bring that energy into your next sales call, and it just sort of starts slipping. Does that resonate? Does anybody feel that? Some nods, yes. Some very strong nods, yeah. I certainly feel that. Like when I'm physically better, like right now I'm walking and swimming most days, so my energy is much higher. But when I broke my ankle last December, it was tough. Everything was tough, no matter how hard I worked at it. So just recognizing that is the first step, because then you're not beating yourself up and going, do you know what? Everybody else is doing super great. I went on LinkedIn, sometimes taking a little breather from LinkedIn and all the humble brags and the, I had 2 inches of trouble and then miles of success and everything is super great. And you're like, yeah, I know that everybody else is doing this. Sometimes it's good to just take a breather and focus on who you are and what you do well. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So for analogy purposes, let's think about your marketing like a steam engine. If you're putting in the fuel of the steam engine, the coal for your marketing steam engine is your content, your blogs, your videos, your sales calls, all of that stuff. You're putting it in and putting it in. And your steam train is chugging along. Actually, using this image is chugging this way, but it's chugging along and the steam is going and it's building up, literally building up steam. If you've got a hill to climb, you're going to have to build a lot of steam and energy to climb that hill. Now, when you either pause or slow down or don't put as much fuel in or just sort of let the train go, depending on the path that you're on, the rails that you're on, if you're on a completely straight path and you just sort of stop putting things in a bit and it's still ticking away, but it's slowing down and slowing down. But if you're on a hill and things are hard, it's not going to take very long for it to kind of cruise to a stop. And then it's going to start to go backwards. And it's going to start rolling back the way that it came. That's how marketing works. It actually takes, once you've got the momentum going, it only takes a little bit to keep the momentum going. But the second that you let your hands go and you stop putting the fuel in and you sit back, that's the moment that your pausing becomes stopping. And I want to address this word pause. We actually get this a lot at PF when we're working with an accountant or an accountancy firm who's going through a tough time. They've lost some team members. They've lost some clients. They've got big systems things they're doing. They're recruiting. They've got family issues. And they go, listen, we just need to sort of pause our marketing right now. And every time somebody says that, our response is, of course you can slow down. But there's a big difference between pausing and stopping. And a lot of times when we say pause, what we mean is stop. We're just trying to be polite. We're trying to be like, listen, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I think PF is great. I appreciate all the help. I've been investing in my marketing. And the back of your mind is saying, it's okay if I pause because I will pick it back up. And you fully intend to, just give me a month or 2 months. That's it. But we all know what happens when you pause something for a month or 2 months. It becomes 3 and 4 and 6 and 12. And before you know it, you haven't been putting any fuel in and your engine comes to a stop and there's no steam coming out at all. The trouble with that, and this happens actually much faster than you would think. So the trouble with that is you come to a halt. In order to pick that back up and get back to your full steam going up the hill, that's going to take way more energy than if you had just been planting a little bit and adding a little bit of coal here and there, because you got to not start over, but restarting takes a long time. Again, using my exercise and broken ankle analogy, when I broke my ankle and I did not walk at all for almost 8 weeks, at all. I mean, I limped around my house. And then after 8 or 9 weeks, I was able to limp a little bit the street outside my house. And it was very exciting. And when the ankle healed, the doctor's like, listen, great news. The bone is fully healed. You're good to go. I don't need to see you again. I'm like, yay. No offense, doctor. And he's like, no offense taken. That's what we both want. So that's all wonderful. And I just sort of in my mind was like, listen, my ankle's healed. Off we go. 45-minute walk tomorrow. And I forgot that even though the bone had healed, the rest of my body had sat doing not very much for 8 weeks. So it took months to even be able to walk 30 minutes a day. I'm now up to 45 minutes an hour. There's no problem, back to where I was, plus I'm swimming. But that's taken, this is almost September. That's 8 months. So that's what happens to your marketing. And I'm telling you this because if you're saying in your mind, it's okay, I can pause for a little while. If it's anything more than about a week, then you're beginning to slow to a stop. And this isn't to be hard on you. This is just to say, let's be realistic about this. It's sort of like when you tell somebody you're going to meet them for dinner and you look at your watch and you go, I've got a few minutes to quickly brush my teeth, put on some lipstick, put on a blazer, get my shoes, get in the car, grab my bag and drive there. And the back of your mind's going, honestly, I know that it takes a good 10, 15 minutes to drive there. There's a bit of traffic right now. I'm not even sure I know which shoes I'm wearing or whatever. So you may as well be honest and say, it's going to take half an hour. This is what it's going to take. But we don't do that because we don't want to disappoint the person. So we're like, listen, I'll be 15 minutes. And then we end up disappointing them because they expect us to be there in 15 minutes and we take 30. Let's just be realistic. If you're going to pause it, pause it. But it needs to be an actual pause. And there are things, and that's why we're doing this today, we're going to talk about, there are things that you can do to keep that steam going. Go back to this for a second. To keep that steam going in a little way. It might just be like up to here, just a little bit of steam. That's better than let's not go all or nothing here. That doesn't help. I'm very much an all or nothing person, but I've had to learn with marketing and so many things in my life that the steady, consistent pace is far better in the long run. Those of you who are familiar with PF's marketing map, I'll just jump out and show you that as a reminder. The marketing map has been created to remind you that it's a journey. You start by learning marketing. You look at your foundations. Usually there's a brand or website project in the foundational days. And then this part, this content marketing that just ticks away month after month, year after year, we recommend you do that for at least 2 to 3 years to build up that steam. Doesn't mean that you're not going to get any business in that time. It just means it can take 2 to 3 years to really build up that head of steam. And if you drop it, you've got to go back and redo foundations and maybe redo your brand and website. And that's okay. But keeping that momentum going and building on it is what's going to help you the most. So just a quick question on the stopping or pausing. Where do you feel like you're at? Just drop it into the chat in terms of, are you at a pause? Are you at a stop? Or are you at a sort of standstill? Like, where are you feeling with your marketing? And put that into the chat. Just pick a word, sort of defines how you're feeling with the momentum that you've got with your marketing. And let's consider that. Just a word that defines your momentum. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it pause? Is it standstill? Is it energetic? What is it? All right, we've got a chugging along. Absolutely, Marsha. I think that's a great phrase for that. And that's what we're going to talk about. Sometimes chugging along is as powerful, if not more powerful, than full steam ahead, because you cannot go full steam ahead all the time. You have to chug for a while and then go full steam and then chug. And sometimes you do have to stop. I totally accept that. But that's a rare thing. And let's make it rare. Let's keep the chugging. We have some people pausing, some people getting things moving, have had a pause. Thank you for that, Michaela. I think just recognizing like we had a pause and now we are starting up again, and we can be honest about the fact that that's going to take a little while. Heather Sherry, our coal isn't even in the engine. Love the honesty there. That's where people are at. That's again why you're looking at this going, let's just put a little coal in. We don't have to put all the coal in and do everything tomorrow. You know, the power of consistent, daily, steady things is not to be diminished. I actually feel like anything that I've massively achieved in my life has come from slow, steady, consistent, keeping going in the same direction with something that works. And sometimes you go in the same direction for a while and you don't know if it's working, but most of the time you do know what works, but you pause it because things are hard. So we're going to go through, I think we have 5 specific points that we're going to talk about of things that you can do. And kind of during or after each one, I want you guys to throw into the chat how this applies, if it applies to your firm, because the point of this masterclass is not only to help you think and learn, but to say, this is just one thing that I can start doing. And I want to just plant the seed now. I know you've attended loads of events and webinars and masterclasses. Like, what is your action? What one thing will you take away and do today? Whilst I think there is some value in that, there's always value in action. The biggest value is in what one thing can you consistently do every day, every week, every month. Those rhythms, those of you who have bought the account or pre-ordered the Accountant Marketer book, we've done some workshops on marketing rhythms. And if you really like that, you're welcome to pre-order the book and you get access to one of those workshops. We did one yesterday and it was just amazing hearing people being like, right, okay, my best time is Wednesday mornings, 9 to 11. I'm going to do this for the first hour, this for the second hour. This is my backup plan for a bad day. That's the sort of thing that we talk about in detail. So Steph, if you can drop in the pre-order link there for anyone who hasn't done that, you'll get a link to that rhythms session that might help you. So the first thing you can do is think ahead to what your dry spells tend to look like. Now, there may be dry spells that seem to apply to the accounting industry as a whole, but yours are going to be different than other people's. So I think most people put some things in the chat there about when your dry spell is. And I think some of you shared that you have one right now. But thinking ahead to these is what helps you to say, okay, so if I know that July and August are quiet, what does that mean? Actually, put that in the chat. if you know that July and August are going to be really quiet, it's going to be hard to get meetings with prospects or whatever, what does that mean for pre-July? Just throw into the chat. What does that mean? What kinds of things, how early might you need to start planning ahead for July and August? Just throw that in there. I'm curious to see what kinds of things happen for you. If July and August are quiet, what kinds of things might you need to do January to June? Just double checking. Oh, we've got somebody who had some echo. Is that for everybody else or just, no, just one? Okay. Carry on. It might just be one of those things. Oh, yeah. Zoom's been a little bizarre, Sean, I think. Try the logging out, if all else fails, turn it off and turn it on again. So put into the chat, if you have a quiet spell in July and August, what does that mean you need to be doing before that hits? Or if you don't know, just say, I don't know, I'm not sure what to do. Dry spells are dry spells, that seems to happen. But I'm curious to hear what kinds of things you might need to be doing to prepare for that dry spell. Let's give you a second to think on that. Got one comment that says you just panic. That is one option that many of us go with, and I would suggest that's absolutely fine the first time, but the second time, if you've had it happen once, then planning ahead is going to help, even just in a tiny way. Marcia's suggesting creating content readiness. I think that's a perfect example. Like, if you know that July and August are going to be quiet, then what things could you be writing or sharing or creating in June or May? And also the honesty of saying, hey, things are pretty quiet in July and August. If you've been looking for a new accountant, now is the time to talk to us. I know an accountant in the States, and the US tax season is kind of January to April, finishing on April 15th, sort of. And there was an accountancy firm there who had organized things so well that their January to April wasn't too bad. They had it all sorted. They had people sending things early. So they would send out emails in February and March and say, if you need a tax return done late and you've left it to the last minute, we're actually quite organized and ahead of things. You can work with us. You're going to have to pay an urgency fee because it's last minute, but we can talk to you. And they got so many people because all of these people have been like racing around trying to find an accountant. Everybody's like, nope, we're just super busy, can't do it. And so that was an opportunity that they did because they worked on that for years. So working on that ahead of time helps immensely. Michaela's saying, I would love to have a dry spell. That is such a great point. If you do not have a dry spell and you're busy all the time, I think there's two things to consider. One is, are there any systems or rhythms you need to create so that you're not constantly rushing to, catch your tail? The other option is you can create a dry spell by creating a waiting list. And a waiting list says, we are not accepting any new clients for 2 weeks, for a month, for 3 months, for as long as you want. And you can even say it's 3 months and then later change your mind and make it a month. Steph, could you drop in that? I think we have an article on how to build a waiting list, or how and why to build a waiting list. Is a good one to read later if that's something you want to do, because when you have the waiting list, then when you do have space, you go to that and say, hey, actually, we've got some space now. Do you want to chat? Worst they can say is, no, I'm super busy right now, I don't want it. But at least you've made that option. Sometimes when people are considering waiting lists, they're thinking, yeah, but if somebody wants to start working with us, they want to start now. They don't want to wait. There is an element to which that's true. There are some people who, when they're ready, they're ready. And if you say no, they'll go somewhere else. But there are a lot of people who, if you're the right fit and you're the right accountant for them, they might be willing to wait. And think about what you could do in that space of time. You could say, listen, we couldn't start with you for 2 months, but in those 2 months, we're going to send you videos. This is back to Marcia's point about adding content. We're going to send you videos and blog posts and questionnaires and things to do. We're going to get you ready so that when we're ready to start and you're ready to start, we haven't lost any time. And the right kind of person will recognize that it isn't always the healthiest to start things instantly from one day to the next, especially a new relationship with an accountant. Same thing with PF. The accountants who come to us and want to start tomorrow, we're like, listen, we got some foundational stuff to do. This marketing isn't something you turn on like a tap. The steam engine is not going to start tomorrow, but we can, put some pieces of coal in there. So that's the first thing that you can do, is think ahead to your dry spell. So whatever those are, say, okay, our dry spell is July, our dry spell is December, whatever it is, just recognize. That's the first step. Just recognize it. And then start thinking, is there one small thing that I could do that would make the next dry spell just the tiniest bit easier? Is there one article that I could write, or one video I could record, or one waiting list I could set up, or a page, or just one little thing? Sometimes we get so like, okay, I need to prepare for my dry spell, so I need to write 47 blog posts and record 6 videos, create a new website, probably create a new company as well. And then it becomes too much and you don't do any of it and nothing happens. So think ahead to that and just pick one small thing, one tiny thing that will make it marginally better. That's all you're doing. Just a little marginal improvement is better than trying to do these big things. It's very Atomic Habits. Many of you know that's probably, I think it's creeping up to be my all-time favorite personal business book of all time, because it's so practical. You just find the 2-minute thing or 10-minute thing per day that is going to help you, and then you just do it and keep doing it. Instead of trying to get these big results and wait for them, you're doing the small things consistently, which leads you to the big results. And that's hard work. It's why being fit and healthy or losing weight or whatever your goal is, it's why that is super hard. You have to exercise more and eat less. That is what you have to do. Everybody knows that. But everybody's looking for the pill or the diet or the gym or the whatever that will magically make that happen tomorrow. When I started swimming in the mornings, I was like 2 mornings in. I'm like, I am literally an Olympian. I am like I am full on. This is amazing. And then I walked past the mirror and I was like, we're not quite Olympian status yet. But like, that's what we do. We're like, I'm doing it. It's happening. And then 2 weeks later, we're like, why is this taking so long? Why is this hard? So do the small things. Think of one small thing. If you've thought of something, if something has popped into your head, drop it into the chat and say, here's a small thing. If you're not sure what the action is, at least identify the category. What if I spent time on a pre-qualifying questionnaire, like a discovery sort of diagnostic or form? What if my onboarding was just a little bit better? What if I had a blog post about this? What if I had a page on my website about pricing? Something that will give a little more information and help move that forward. Okay, the second thing you can do is check back on what it is that you actually want to achieve with marketing. Because it is tempting when you're thinking of marketing to think that means I need more leads. That isn't necessarily the case for many of you. Some of you don't want new leads. Some of you don't want new clients. Some of you might, but not yet. You might want more awareness. You might want to pay attention to your brand. You might need more visibility. You might want better engagement. You might want faster sales process or whatever. Because when you check this, that will then inform the kinds of things you need to be spending time on. If you are presuming that you have to get more leads, you will be doing actions that may actually not be helping you. I spoke to an accountant recently who said, actually, I just really want to get more out of my existing clients. So if that's his goal, he does not need to be doing awareness and visibility and social media. He needs to be sending emails and newsletters and videos to his clients. Maybe a few pages on his website about things that are relevant. Maybe running a masterclass or a course or an event for his clients. So I'd love to hear from you what it is that you want your marketing to do for you. Say in the next 6 months, if in 6 months this was happening, whatever this is, what would that be for you? Drop that into the chat. In 6 months, I will have more clients, have less clients, have more team members, have have a better onboarding system, better pre-qualifying? What is it that you would love to have happen in 6 months' time? Let's look at the big picture and then we'll break it down. And some people do want more clients. Absolutely. Some people want more clients, more leads. That's interesting. Sometimes we think, okay, well, we need lots and lots of leads because we'll get a few clients from that. And we'll talk about that. Better systems and content for current clients. Absolutely. So depending on what your goal is, then you want to break it down into what one thing, similar to what we just did with point one, what one simple thing would be helpful for that. So for those of you who want to get more clients, are you crystal clear on the type of client you want? The person, the company, the industry, whatever it be. Are you like, it's not just generally more, it's more of this kind of person? If you aren't, then you need to be. If you are, then you can say, all right, so what do those people need? So say, for example, you're like, listen, we work with creatives, we work with tech businesses, we work with dentists, whatever it be. What do they most need to know about us? Do they need to know we exist? If so, we need to be posting a little more on social regularly, maybe some videos. Do they need to know about our pricing? Maybe we need to do a pricing page or a blog post about this is the approach we take towards putting together a proposal for you. You don't have to give the prices, but you need to explain something so that they understand it. Especially for those who want more clients, visibility and awareness is going to be a big thing for you. There's also referrals and connecting to your current clients, making sure they're happy and seeing if there's anyone like them that they want to send to you. So it might even be as simple as dropping a personal email to 5 of your favorite clients and saying, hey, we've actually got some capacity coming up. Do you know anyone? We love working with you. Now, only do this for clients you like. We love working with you. We think you're amazing. Do you know anyone like yourself that needs this kind of accounting support? Worst they can say is no, not right now. And then guaranteed about 2 months later, they'll run into somebody and go, oh, do you know what? They were asking me. It's so small and so simple. And we're sitting there thinking, I have to set up TikTok. That's what I have to do. And I have to record dancing videos with the whole team. And I have to hire a videographer. That's it. That's going to take so much time and investment. Never mind. When actually sending a few emails or a few direct messages on LinkedIn. One of the things I do is when I'm running an event, if I know some people are coming, I just drop them a note and say, hey, I'm coming to this event. It'd be great to see you there. Some people respond and you start chatting and then you get to the event and you talk to them. We have a client we're working with right now because I said, hey, are you going to this event? She said, yes. I said, we're running a lunch the day before if you want to come. She came, we chatted. And like a month later, she's like, right, we're in, let's go, let's do things. She's known about us for 5 years. And it all came back to just one little LinkedIn message. Now, I sent about 45 of them. And there were a couple other people that I connected with as well. So this is back to the consistency. I did maybe 5 or 6 of those a day for a week or so. The little teeny tiny things are often so much more powerful than the big efforts. We've done videos or website pages or a new members login for PF or whatever. And we're like, this is it. This is gonna bring them flooding in. And then it takes people time to figure out that your train is steaming ahead. So find the tiniest thing that you can do. Heather's mentioned having a regular content pattern. Heather, that marketing rhythm session might be great for you because that regular pattern, you want to break it down into something achievable and specific. On Thursday mornings from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., I am going to write out a blog structure. And on Friday mornings from 9 to 10, I'm going to actually write the blog. That is far more specific than I'm going to block out 2 hours a week somewhere at some point, I think, maybe, if things aren't too busy. The reason we do that is we're trying to give ourselves an out. We had a client yesterday say on the marketing rhythm session that he put a reminder in his diary on Monday mornings. And he said, but I didn't block out the time. I just put a reminder, which of course I ignore every Monday morning. And then he said, I've also realized Monday morning is the worst time for me to do content because I'm firefighting and catching up on things and looking at emails. He's like, actually, I think Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings for a shorter amount of time would be better. I'm going to try that. That's the sort of thing that you're doing in a tiny way, but it has to link back to your marketing goals. So if you want more efficient processes, then you need a rhythm or something small that you're doing to improve one process, just one, not all the processes yet. Just pick the most important process that's going to have the most impact on the most number of clients and fix that one. Just make it a little bit better. Not even fix it perfectly, just make it just marginally better. And then make it a little better and a little better. One of the things I love to suggest with onboarding is that instead of redoing your whole onboarding process, you say, for the next client we onboard, I'm going to change one thing in our onboarding process to make it a little bit better. I'm going to record one video. What would that video be? That might be, hey, I want to introduce you to Xero or these apps, or by the way, here's how to set up your payment on Go Cardless or whatever it be. And you do that for the next client. And if it's helpful for them, you're like, right, that's now part of our onboarding. And then the next new client, you do another thing. And now you have two things that you've added, but you're adding it in real time with real humans. So instead of vaguely thinking, what are all the things that every client needs? You're thinking, what does Marcia need? What does Laura need? What does Heather need? You have this specific person. And you go, well, Heather needs it. And actually all our clients need it. So that's my thing. You can do that with anything. You can do it with blogging. You can do it with social media. You can do it with any of those things. Number 3, this is a big one. This one, as long as you have any existing content, this is going to be massively powerful for you. You can take content you have already, blog posts, videos, social media posts, emails, anything that exists, and change it into a slightly different format that will help people see it again. For all of you who need more clients, more leads, and just a side note, I am going to push back on that a little bit, because sometimes you think you need more clients when actually what you need is better clients, maybe a few number of better clients, or you need to be more specific. For some of you absolutely do need more clients, and that's totally fine. But just double check on that one when you're thinking, yeah, I need more clients. What if you just had 1 or 2 amazing clients, like your favorite client? So looking back at your existing content, just drop a yes or a no in the chat if you have existing content from, I'd say, within the past year, 2 years, blog post, video, social media posts, any kind of content that you have that you can repurpose, yes or no. And even if you don't know, it doesn't even matter if you're like, actually, I don't think I could repurpose it. Do you have any existing content at all? Yeah, mostly yes. We have a few no's, and that's okay. That's, if you're just getting started, then now you have to start creating it, but you can think ahead in future, you're going to be able to repurpose it. The best thing to do with existing content is to go back and look at the highest performing, the blog post you've sent to the most clients, the video that most people have commented on, even if it's 2 people. I'm not saying you have to be like, oh yeah, that one went viral. It doesn't have to be that, but it needs to be a piece of content that you feel proud of, feel like it was helpful. You sent it to a few clients. Go find that piece of content, whatever it is, and just look at it with new eyes. If it's 2 years old and you're saying, okay, number 1, is this still relevant? You know, I wrote this blog post about electric cars a year ago. Is everything in it still relevant, still fresh, still applicable? If it is, then you can just share it. You can just say, hey, we wrote this article. We actually wrote it a year ago, but everything in it's still relevant. And if you're still considering an electric car, have a read of this, chat to us if you're not sure. If there's anything in it that's not relevant or dated, you can either adjust it. If it's a blog post, you can edit it. I do usually encourage, if you're editing it significantly, that you add a little note at the top to say, we've updated this article on this date. because you've got the original article date, which you need for Google and for integrity, just saying we originally posted this in July 2021, but we've updated it in August of 2023 with some new facts. Or you can take that and turn it into different things. So if you have say like one of these master classes that we're running, say we have one from 2 years ago that had some good content in it that's still relevant and applicable. Vitor, our marketing assistant, could go to that webinar, that master class, and pull out 30 seconds of video and post it on social. He doesn't have to run a whole new master class. He doesn't have to do all this stuff. He's just got something with a little piece of information that's helpful, and you've saved yourself loads of time because that thing is still relevant. It's that concept of stackable content. You can have a blog post. You could record a video saying the points from the blog post. Use the blog post content like a structure. If you have a video, you can get it transcribed, and lo and behold, you have a blog post. You can take a quote from your blog post and use it as a social media post. You can take an image that you have from a retreat you did last year and say, hey, I'm just, Throwback Thursday. I'm just remembering this retreat, and I loved it because we had this opportunity to talk with clients and we did this. Just because it happened a while ago doesn't mean it's gone and you can never touch it again. And the beautiful thing about this is it takes less energy, emotional energy and time and investment to repurpose. It might take you 5 minutes or an hour, whereas the original piece of content took you 5 hours or 5 days. We've got so much content at PF, and we're always creating more. And one of our challenges is to make sure that we're going back to previous content and saying, actually, we've got an article on repurposing content. We have an article on waiting lists. And every time, this is a little thing that I do personally, every time I send an article to someone, so I just did it this morning, we had a accountant get in touch and say, hey, I want to have a chat, talk about my marketing. And he wanted to talk about branding. So I went and found an article that we had written, and I read it and just double checked to make sure that what was in it was applicable to him. That way, if it wasn't, I could say, here's an article. You can ignore the last half, which is for much bigger firms. You're a smaller firm, whatever. Or I might look at the article and go, do you know what? I'm not even going to share that. I'm going to share something else. But checking to see how it applies to that person, and then just addressing that. Here's an article you might like. Here's a video that might be helpful. It's just an extra little thing to build that, and it helps you to repurpose it. So if something has come to mind, a blog post, a video, a website page, any piece of marketing that you think you might be able to repurpose, just drop into the chat what it is. Is it a PDF guide? Is it a blog post? Is it a social media post? If you drop that in, I'll give you, if we haven't already covered it, I'll give you some suggestions about the various ways that you could repurpose that thing. Videos, by the way, while you're thinking of that, any video that you have, you can clip out portions. Okay, webinars, perfect example, Ellie. If you've got a webinar, I'm guessing it's probably 45 minutes to an hour. Most webinars are. Even if it's a half an hour, you've got this long section of time. Rewatch it and look for the bit that you're like, do you know what? That was a really good statement that we made. That right there, that 10 seconds, that 1 minute, you're looking for that little clip that says something that people remember. I've done this before, and sometimes I'm like, hey, that was a really good statement that I just threw out there off the top of my head in that webinar, and I totally forgot. Revisit that, grab that section out, use it as an Instagram reel, use it as a LinkedIn video. Depending where and how you're using it depends on the format you use. So if you're putting it as a LinkedIn video, then you want it to be landscape in less than 10 minutes. Using an Instagram reel, you want it to be 90 seconds and portrait. It really helps to think ahead of time to how you're going to use content. And the more pieces of content you have, the better. But use whatever you've got and turn it into something usually smaller. So the other thing you can do with webinars is pull out some of the quotes and things that you said, or things that people who are on the webinar said, and use that to say, we had a question from a client in a webinar about this, and I thought I would just mention that and reshare the whole webinar. You could do that. You share the whole thing, share a portion of it. You can share a quote from it. You could use some of the wording from the webinar as a social post. There's a lot of pieces that you could do there. Same thing, Marcia, with a video. However long the video is, you can take pieces from it. You can reshare the whole thing. Like we said with blog posts, you could share the video and say, listen, this video is actually 2 years old, but this principle is still relevant. So if you watch from 3 minutes to 5 minutes, I really want you to focus in on that. You're welcome to watch the whole thing. Just being honest. And there's a few things in there that, you might recognize. We talked about COVID or whatever, but the principle of this applies. Laura's mentioned older blogs. Absolutely. If like we said, you can take an older blog and either update it, or you can rewrite the blog, as long as it's fresh enough that you don't essentially have 2 blogs on the exact same thing. But if you need to rewrite it, I've known people who have written blogs about very detailed tax things that are completely out of date. So they've just written a whole new one. They said, right, okay, now we're going to write the 2023 one. So you can always do that. If you have questions about a piece of content, how you might repurpose it, drop us a line on any of the socials or in the PF community Slack if you're in there. Just say, hey, I was thinking about repurposing this. Do you have any ideas? Because even just 2 or 3 small things can make a big difference. And yeah, great point from Vitor. I was going to mention that this masterclass that we're doing, Vitor and Steph have already been planning ahead to saying, how might we grab little portions? I've got my phone sitting in portrait mode, recording this right now, so that we have both landscape and portrait. And planning ahead for that gives you all these different pieces that you can repurpose. And as we said, just as a reminder, the great part about repurposing is it takes way less energy and way less time for something that still is valuable. And they still need to hear it. And it means 5 minutes instead of 5 hours. And you get a big impact from that. While I'm thinking of it, another great repurposing option is those LinkedIn, I forget what they're called. It's like a showcase thing. Do you know what I'm talking about, Steph? The one where you
the carousels.
Carousels, yes. So you can take, it's like PDFs and images, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did a Kickstart guide, and it's like a 48-page guide. If you're a PF Lab member, it's free. If you're not a PF Lab member, you can just buy the guide as a one-off. It's incredibly detailed, gives you everything you need to create the most important content. Actually, maybe drop that in, Steph, just for anyone who might need that. This might be a great next step if you're not, working regularly with PF and you're not in lab, just a one-off fee for the guide, and it gives you, this is the content that the buyers of accountancy firm services most want and need, and it is the content that most accountants are missing. Yeah, and what we did with that guide is we took like 10 pages of it, because the guide is a paid guide, but we took 10 pages of it, put it into a LinkedIn carousel, and said, this is what it looks like. This is how it feels. It comes with a video, it comes with a checklist, it comes with a call with me to talk through it. But if you just want to get a sense of it, here's the carousel. So it's pieces of existing content. Okay, I'm going to move on to number 4. This one, it almost seems like it's obvious that you would go back to former prospects and reconnect with them. And yet, what happens in our minds with sales, and I do this all the time as well, is we think, well, they never got back in touch, so they must not be interested. That's what we tell ourselves. We've already made the decision on their behalf. They ghosted us. I think, Ellie, you were saying that. We talked to them. We had all these great conversations. I emailed them twice and I called them once. Clearly, they don't like us. We're too expensive. They found somebody else. We're not the right fit. You imagine all of these reasons why they never got back in touch. Actually, the reasons don't matter a whole lot, in the sense that it could be anything. Their mother could be in hospital. And I'm not saying it doesn't matter that their mother's in hospital. I'm saying for the purposes of your follow-up, it doesn't matter to you what the reason is because you don't know. You're just guessing. Their mother could be in hospital. Their kids could be sick. They could be moving house. They could have lost a big client the day after they got in touch with you. My philosophy with following up on prospects is follow up until they say no or they unsubscribe. Those are the two options. Now, doesn't mean you follow up every day. I follow up a lot more in the early days than I do in the later days. But like we're running another accelerator coaching group intake that starts in 2 weeks' time. And I'm sending emails to people I talked to a year ago. And they said, listen, tell me when the next accelerator is. And they didn't join the February one or the May one. And we said, well, there's one in September. And some people are like, oh yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, I wanted to join. Cheers. A year ago. If I sat there and went, well, haven't heard anything from them for a year, they're going to think I'm annoying them. They are welcome to think I'm annoying them. They can delete my email. They can block me. They can reply and say, please go away. I never want to hear from you again. And that's also a win because I got a no. You want a yes or a no. That's what you want. That's what you're working towards. There's nothing wrong with a no. Absolutely nothing wrong. If somebody doesn't want to work with you, as long as they're making that decision based on all the information, that's the side point. If they don't want to work with you because they don't know who you really are, or your brand or your website are super dated, or you're not showing off the amazing skills you have, that's a you problem and you need to deal with that. But if they say no for whatever reason, that's okay. Let them go. Sometimes they come back later. Just be as pleasant as you can. But the reconnecting, again, this is very simple. You might be thinking, right, okay, I need to do a whole campaign. I need to get a list of all the prospects for the last year and a half and get an Excel spreadsheet, and then I need to export it and import it into my CRM. So I don't have a CRM system. I need to buy a CRM system. I need to spend 3 months doing that. And then I need to craft this perfect campaign. And he said, actually, what you probably need to do is connect with them on LinkedIn and say, hey, we talked a year ago. Did you still want to chat? Or an email or a text message or whatever kind of communication is the fastest. One of my personal favorites is Insta and LinkedIn voice notes. Just a quick, hey, just wanted to send you a note. I know we chatted at this event a year ago and we talked about this, and I was just thinking about you. How are you going? Sometimes I get books back. They're like, listen, let me tell you the story of my marketing journey. We had somebody get in touch with us a couple months ago. And he said, listen, I'm going to be honest. I came to PF a year ago and I thought about working with you on the accelerator and then doing foundation sessions. And then I didn't. And I went with this other company that promised me all these leads and everything was going to be super fast. And it was a complete and utter fail. And he wrote paragraphs telling me everything that went wrong. It was difficult and was struggle. And I said, I'm so grateful that you feel, transparent enough to share those things. And sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you just got to go that route for a little while. And actually that makes him more ready now to be like, right, seriously, I've learned that the right way is the long way. I know you keep saying it, but I've learned it for myself. I spent, what did he spend? Like 3,000 or 10,000 pounds. And he felt like he may as well have flushed it down the toilet. And I said, well, every fail has a learning with it. And now when you're investing money in the long-term things and it feels like it's not happening, you can remind yourself of the cost of that if you don't do it that way. So just dropping a very quick line, a personal one, doesn't have to be this big fancy email, whatever way you were connected with them, a DM, an email, a text message, an Instagram DM, a TikTok video, just whatever it is, just a connection that can stir up something that is already there. Also, please remember that as an accountant, it is your job to follow up with people. That is what they expect you to do when they are a client. If they do not get their account stuff to you in time, and there's a penalty coming, it's your job to say, by the way, if you don't send it by the 5th of October, there will be a penalty. It will cost you this. That is your job as their accountant. If they don't do it, that's on them. They are expecting that in the prospect process. So if you email them twice and then nothing, they're going, well, are they really going to, be much help to me as my accountant? Because they don't seem to care. They could be thinking that. They could be thinking nothing at all. They could have forgotten you exist in a way that, again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they've forgotten you exist. You don't have to take that personally and let your ego get in there. We forget all the time about things that exist or don't. I mention it in my book, The Accountant Marketer. It's the washing machine advert. In the old days, newspaper, you open it every single day and you just read whatever you read. And then one day your washing machine breaks and you open the newspaper and you go, oh my gosh, there's a washing machine advert right here. Just what I need. Amazing. Just today. It's been there for a year. You didn't see it because you didn't need it. That's how your prospects feel. You drop that message, that email, you never know what can happen. And it takes you 5 minutes. And last but not least, Steph and I were talking about this, and Steph was saying, I almost felt like this was so obvious. Do we even need to mention it? But we have learned for ourselves, as well as for all of you, that sometimes the most obvious things disappear and aren't noticed. So don't forget your best clients in this time. And I would say this is even more applicable now than ever, because if you're finding things hard, going back to the beginning where some of you were rating, how hard things are, an 8, a 9, a 7, an 8. There's a lot of you that are finding things hard. And I totally get it. And we've been finding things really challenging in some ways as well. This is your opportunity to make sure that you are giving everything to your very best clients. And I don't mean over-servicing, and I don't mean free services. What I mean is you are caring for them. You are contacting them, you are messaging them, you are checking in with them, you are not presuming for a second. You are saying, I just want to make sure that everything is okay. Here's a question that I use and our team use it as well, which is really helpful to ask your clients. So you have a meeting with them, you're chatting away, maybe they're saying everything is super great and they love you and they think you're the best accountant ever. Don't miss out on asking this question even when they say that. Is there anything, no matter how small, that's just not quite right for you? And then just shut up. Just sit there. If it needs to be silent for a little bit, leave it silent. I can almost guarantee you they'll say, no, not really. Honestly, everything is just so super great. Stay silent. Just, okay. Either stay silent or just ask it again. Yeah, that's so great. I'm glad everything's so great. Is there anything though? Just even the tiniest thing that you think doesn't even, matter that much. I guarantee you they will come up with something. And they will say, well, honestly, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but one of the team sent this, or I didn't get this, or whatever. It was no big deal, but I just thought I'd mention it. And you go, listen, that's so great. Thank you so much. I'm going to chat to the team. We're going to make sure that we're doing this for all of our clients. Every time that happens, it's a gift for you. People don't want to say negative things, especially if they think you're great. And they do think you're great. It's possible for them to think that you're great and have a small thing that troubled them at the same time. The challenge is if there's a small thing that troubles them and they don't tell you and you don't ask, and then there's another one, and then there's another one, and then there's another one. In 6 months, they got these huge things and they go, do you know what? Can't take it anymore. They were like our best client. What happened? So it's your job to ask, and it's your job to strip out your ego from it and just ask factually. And I love saying, no matter how small, because that reminds them that you're not looking for, actually, I think your whole firm has screwed this up. It's just, how was you could even be specific. How was the onboarding process for you? How did that work? Yeah, it was super great. Everything was wonderful. I love this person, this person. Well, what did you love? What did you love especially that they did? And then again, is there anything, no matter how small, that you felt was missed or would have been helpful if you had it? Well, do you know what? Now that you mention it, was a little, I got this email on day 15 and it might have been helpful to have that on day 1. No big deal. There it is. They've just given you that gold, something that can really make a difference for all your future clients. So try that in the next week. A client meeting, end of the meeting. Couple questions you can ask are, is there anything else you want to ask me just now? Nice, open-ended, anything in the world. If they say no, be like, you sure, anything at all? And then ask is there anything, no matter how small, that's just not quite right for you or wasn't quite right? And just see what you get. Going back to all these 5 things that we looked at, I would pick one of these and I'm going to flick through the 5. I want you to drop the number into the chat that's the most relevant to you. Is it thinking ahead to dry spells, like the actual months of the year? Oops, got to go forward. Is it making sure that you know what your goals are? If you're not sure, you need to know that. Is it repurposing existing content? Is it reconnecting with prospects? Is it focusing on existing clients? Whichever one of those 5, it sounds like from what you guys have shared that most of you, it's 3, 4, or 5. Then that's the thing that you do. And just figure out the tiniest thing that you can do to move that forward. And then keep doing that thing. Do it every Tuesday. Do it every Friday. Do it every whatever. And that will get your momentum going. And you have a little bit of steam. You'll notice this little steam engine, it's not full steam ahead, but it's got some steam. It's got a little bit of steam. And you can be chugging along. No shame in chugging along. Chugging along is extremely valuable. It's a good thing to do. Okay, 2 things. I have given you loads of stuff, loads of resources. I know all these things. If you're thinking, okay, other than my one little action, there's like a billion things I could do. The top 2 things I would recommend you do with PF to help you are either join the coaching group. That starts in 2 weeks. It's every week for an hour, and we go through the marketing elements in order, and you learn to apply this to your firm. If you have done it before, there's a special repeat offer that you can make the most of, and just ask us for that. If you have not, this is the best place to start. Every accountant who goes through this is like, oh, it all makes sense now. You're not learning brand new information. You're learning to apply it to your firm so that it's more powerful. The other thing you can do, if you're either like, I don't know, Accelerator sounds good, but do I need that? Do I need something else? You can book a call with me. Just go to this link here, wearepf.com/discovery. Fill in that form. There's a little box to say, yes, I would like a call. Even if you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I want services from PF right now, but I could use a little help. That's why it's called a momentum call. It's just to give you a little momentum. So fill in that form, tick the little box. I'll send you my next available or a calendar link, and we'll just get that in, and we'll just help you get a little momentum, even more than today, if that's what you need. So those are the 2 things. If you want to join Accelerator, Steph will drop the link in there. You can join directly on the site. If you're not sure and you want to talk about Accelerator, or talk about something else, or talk about anything, that's the URL to use. And that is us. We are bang on time. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for all your questions and your comments and the things that you shared in there. And for those of you who are joining us in Accelerator, it'll be like this, but with every week on a rotating basis, and we'll continue to go through these areas and apply this to you. So it'll be great. If you need anything, just fill in that form or drop me a note on, any of the socials or anywhere you find me. You know where we are. Have a great day. Bye.